Welcome back to another edition of Dead End Sports 365, the place where sports opinions collide. I am the OG 12 Kyle back in the building. And on this episode, what I want to talk about is my favorite sports memory from 2022. 2022 saw a lot of great sports memories, but I'm going to give you mine. It's hard to narrow it down to one. Actually, really wasn't that hard. I'll take you back. Let's go back to February 13th, 2022. Los Angeles, California, SoFi Stadium, Super Bowl 56. The Los Angeles Rams were playing against the Cincinnati Bengals. But that wasn't the story. My most favorite sports memory actually came from that event, but not the actual game. It was a halftime show. The halftime show starring Andre Young, aka Dr. Dre. And I know you're thinking, well, hey, that's not a sports memory. Yes, it is. Because in my opinion, what we saw was one of the greatest shows ever. Period. Not just hip hop shows, not just R&B shows, one of the greatest shows ever. 14 minutes of pure, unadulterated, great music. It started off with Dr. Dre behind this huge whiteboard, and it was like he was controlling everything. And if you know Dr. Dre, that's very symbolic of who he is and what he has done over his career. He's joined on stage with the legendary Snoop D-O-G, and they performed the last episode. Snoop decked out in a full, I don't know, looked like a LA Rams Crip flag. Snoop was up there, and the performance was great. And then they flowed into California Love, which is a banger, obviously with the late Tupac Shakur. And, Snoop is up there and he's crip walking in, Inglewood, which is something in and of itself for those who know. But yeah, it was dope. And then they go from California Love to an object from what we could see was hanging upside down. I thought it was a caricature at first. Turns out it is none other than Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent. He performs in the club. He got a lot of jokes for, because 50 ain't the same size he was when that song came out. So the idea of 50 hanging upside down was quite comical, and he became a meme, if you will. And from that point on, the production flowed into one of my favorite singers of all time, Miss Mary Jane Blige. She goes into her jam, Family Affair. So it was no hateration, no holleration, all up in the dancery in SoFi Stadium, being viewed by hundreds of millions of people across the world. Then she goes into her slower joint, No More Pain, very powerful song, and she ends the song and she passes out. Well, when she passes out, we start hearing this rumble from the left-hand side, and it is none other than Compton's own K-Dot, Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar comes out. He has all of these people with him, dancers and everything, and he performs his smash All Right. Kendrick caught a little flack because in the song he says, quote, "and we hate po-po." Now that part, if you go back and listen to it now, is beeped out, but he actually sang that live or rapped that live. I didn't have a problem with that. It's part of the song, so get over it. Then the concert flows into Eminem, Marshall Mathers. Dre plays a little bit of, he starts off with a little bit of Forgot About Dre, and then he flows into Lose Yourself from the 8 Mile soundtrack. Then after that, he is joined on stage with Anderson .Paak, who's also from California, if I'm not mistaken. And then because Anderson .Paak's on the drums, and again, this is an amazing concert being viewed by everybody. The music kind of slows down. Dr. Dre sits at a piano and he starts playing I Ain't Mad at You, at least the chorus from I Ain't Mad at You. And then he flows into Forgot About Dre, the smash with he and Snoop Dogg. You see dancers everywhere, what I call gangster dancers on the field, dancing. And then everybody comes on stage. Everybody who's performed. So at that point, it's Dr. Dre, Snoop, 50 Cent, Mary J, Eminem, Anderson .Paak, and everybody's on stage. And they end off with that song. And like I said, one of the reasons why it was my favorite memory, sports memory of 2022 is because you will never, ever, 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 ever see a halftime show that looks anything like that. I've seen a lot of halftime shows in my lifetime. That was the first of its kind, and there will never be another one. And I got to give Dre his props for doing that and pulling that off, because that was straight hip hop. And we will never see another hip hop show at the Super Bowl halftime show. It's never happened before. It'll never happen again. It was fitting that it was in LA, Dr. Dre's hometown, Kendrick Lamar's hometown. And it was a beautiful thing to see. And for someone like myself who discovered NWA and Dr. Dre in 1988 and quickly became one of my favorite groups of all time, it was very major for me, and it was moving. It was so much fun to see. And you couldn't have never told me that back in 1988 when I heard Straight Outta Compton and this dude saying F the police, that many years later, he would be performing in front of the world, singing, rapping some of his songs. And so everything's really kind of come full circle. And like you said, in Still Dre, they want to know if he still got it. I guess you can say after that Super Bowl performance, yeah, Dre still got it. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this edition of Dead End Sports 365. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you check out my channel and my podcast. It's called the 12Kyle Podcast. The podcast is free and available on all DSPs. The podcast drops weekly, every Thursday at midnight. That's going to do it for me. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.